All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining today's presentation on how hospitality and maintenance teams can 2x their productivity and really convert challenges into opportunities. Today's speaker is Micah Crawshaw, and Micah is currently the lift maintenance and utilities manager at Panorama Mountain Resort. He oversees maintenance and operations of ski lift and the maintenance of high voltage electrical utility as his primary roles. Before he worked at Panorama, Micah was working at an electrical utility company where he specialized in managing fault response and maintenance operations. Micah has also spent 12 years in electrical supply and distribution and had involvement in their system rollouts within the industry. Today, you're going to be learning about some ongoing challenges that Panorama's maintenance team was experiencing, as well as how they were able to resolve them, as well as the steps they took to really build a proactive and preventative maintenance plan. And from that, the direct impact that it had on their maintenance operations that resulted from those steps. During the webinar, we encourage you at any point to answer and submit any questions you have into the questions pane. And then at the end of the session, you'll have an opportunity to have a Q&A session with Micah to address those questions. And with that, before we dive right in, we have a quick poll for you to answer, which is, where are you currently on your maintenance planning journey? Is it A, that you don't have a CMMS and you're not sure where to start? Or B, you have a system in place, but you're just getting started? Or C, you have a system, but you're looking for more ideas on how you can improve what you currently have. So if you could please submit that question or that response, and then we'd love to share those results with you afterwards so you can see how you stack up. We'll just give it a few seconds to allow everybody to respond. Looks like the responses are rolling in. All right, so wow, pretty even amongst all three answers. So it looks like, yeah, pretty even split between all three, with a few more who have a system but looking to improve. With that, I will turn it over to you, Micah.
Thanks. Thanks, Yuri. So I'm the lift maintenance and utility manager at Panorama. I've been doing the manager's job for about 12 months. Kind of started on this role probably just over 2 years ago, nearly 3, when I started in mountain operations and I was asked to pick a maintenance system. For those who probably haven't seen or been around the ski industry so much, it was after spending 12 years in basically power and hydro distribution, this one was quite different. Maintenance on ski hills can be a challenge, particularly as it's very remote in some locations, some places you can't get to with vehicles. It's snowmobile access only at certain times of the year. There are a lot of assets spread over a very large area. We've got power utilities. We own and manage our own. Ski lifts, vehicles, snowmaking guns. You name it. We've got a lot to maintain. And that's just in the mountain operations side. Our village operations department, they run a separate system, but they also do their own lodging and things like that as well. So, yeah, ski hill maintenance is vast. It's very diverse. Um, we we were told we had to find one as a result of probably DSA. Every company goes through a couple of incidents, and we had one or two, not major ones, but ones that basically the regulator had to come and do a couple of investigations on. And ski lifts are very heavily regulated. They're a device or a machine that carries people, so safety is really, really important. And unfortunately, as a result of a couple of these things, we were asked to get an engineering review. And the engineer who came and reviewed what we were doing, one of the key points in there was there's the documentation and the record of your maintenance are not great. Now, it wasn't that we weren't doing the maintenance. If the engineer, they came through and they looked at it and said, yep, they can tell it's been maintained. Just by the way it performs and things like that. But the reality is, if there's ever an incident where you end up in court or whatever it is, something like that, there's not enough data to present and say, hey, look, you're actually doing your job. So that kind of started the conversation. When my manager found out that I had done one of these before and also working in a big utility company, they gave me the job. So we tried a couple of them. I spent about a good 6 months working on a research project, and we did try one specifically for ski hills. We tried generic ones. We tried all kinds of stuff. I even tried to build one myself, actually, to be honest. We looked at some of the software that we had, and I also had a couple of years in IT, so I thought maybe we could do that. But the reality was, when I started to put things together, like the cost to benefit ratio, which is, how much time am I going to spend developing this and maintaining it versus, what we're going to get out of it. And then there's also the other question that you have to have is sort of, what happens if I get hit by a bus? Someone's got to pick this up. Internal development wasn't really a good solution. It's very costly. So we tried a few. Like I said, there were ones that were, you had to put servers on site and things like that. It just meant buying more hardware and more maintenance. And we really wanted something that wasn't. It was more click and go. And we wanted something that was sort of, we could start with a little, like a Lego set, and we could just build up as we saw fit. Which is really one of the reasons we went with Limble. The other thing that we really needed is we really needed something that was accessible in the field, sort of semi-immediately, and that we could, if the safety regulator came in and said, hey, look, I want to see this maintenance record for this piece of equipment, we could pull it out. That was basically where we got to. When we sort of went through 5 basic steps. Step 1 was with our management team, the ones who sort of said, look, we need this. And so I spent a bit of time, particularly with the lift maintenance manager, put it at the time, sort of coming up with a plan of what we wanted. And he had a big whiteboard in his office, and it was just full of I wants. I want this and I want that and everything else. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, yeah, look, I'm sure we can find a product potentially that will do that. When I went and chatted to other people like the IT manager, because these people had to be involved too, and a few other things, it's like, well, you're not going to get 100% of what you want. 80% of what you want of your list is a good number, with making sure that the key critical components are in your final solution. And so, the second step was going through and determining a suitable one. And like I said, we tried all kinds of things. Limble wasn't one that actually came up straight away. It actually appeared in his inbox, and he just forwarded me the email and said, here, try this. So sure, why not? It's a free online demo, and so I signed up and we started building things. And I personally am a very colors and very user interface type person. So having been on the other end of a rollout where someone rolled a system out to me, usability was super important. So we went through that process, and we picked a few things, and we were down to two. Went to two, and in the end we chose Limble. And then after that, we had to sort of go with building a framework. And the other thing, we had sort of learned at the time was if it doesn't fit your current the way you do maintenance, and we're talking, the way physically the guys or girls go out into the field and they do their job. If you interfere with their procedure and their daily routine and things like that too much, this becomes more of a hindrance than a help. And one or two things happens. You'll probably become very inefficient, or you'll spend all this money and time building this great maintenance system that nobody uses. So we had to build this framework, and mine was very simply, we took the paper forms for the weekly and monthly inspections that we were recording, and the daily ones that we had no record or plan for at all, and just start to build a framework with what our day and our week and our month would look like. And it was around winter. The machines run, ski lifts run every day in the winter. And that was for us the best time for us to sort of roll this out and practice. And so we figured daily ones were a good one to start with, and we started very simple. Are the safety systems working? Have you done the brake tests? What are your test results? And there were a few good things in there. We sort of if we just practice this will work. And part of step 3 and step 4 was to build the onboarding plan. And that we set up an afternoon in one of the conference rooms. We brought the whole team in. We put everything up on a projector screen. We determined that we wanted to buy tablets for all our staff. So that all got factored in as well. And we sat them all down with a tablet or their own, if they wanted to use their own personal device, they were welcome to do that. And we set them up a little dummy zone, like a practice area for them to play with. And we built all our assets that we want them to work on in this practice zone. And we just said, look, here's an inspection. We want you to fill it out as though you're out in the field, pardon me. And that was also really good because we started to get feedback as to whether this was going to work or not. And what was important as well is that when they started putting answers and data in, we also started to see things like, well, was I asking the right question? So I wasn't getting the answer I was looking for. My questions or what we asked them to do was probably not entirely accurate. And taking into account these guys are tradespeople, they're probably going to be in a hurry or a rush to be filling these things out because these people love tools. They want to get out there and fix things. So it also had to be sort of intuitive. And so I started doing like color coding my answers. So multi-choice questions, a red answer is not a good answer. A green answer is a great answer. An orange answer, I'm probably going to want some more information or want you to think about it before you answer it. And so all of those things we sort of learned as steps 3 and 4. And the first 6 months was interesting. Like these guys loved it. They used it every day. And we started to see improvements, and we started to get all this predictive data we didn't have anymore. And an example of this is we have these things called power takeoffs on the ski lifts, and they have a wheel that basically drives other equipment and a rubber liner that wears out. And after probably about 2 or 3 months, because these things get replaced regularly, we were able to predict, we're going to be changing this next week because we're now recording the measurements of this liner and I can actually plan for someone to be here versus trying to ring someone up in the afternoon and saying I need this machine fixed tonight. So definitely a massive improvement just in the first season. And then as part of that, we started moving on to annual maintenance and including other things as well. and which step 5 is a constantly recurring step. You never really ever leave that. And it's more about looking at what you did well and then coming, well, this wasn't working so well, so I need to make some changes. And this year, as an example, we've been running Limbo for nearly 3 years, and this year we've discovered that the way we utilize our labor hasn't been super efficient. How our monthly inspections used to work is we'd give you your inspection at the beginning of the month, and we say get it done by the 30th. And here's your weekly, and I'll do it to you on Monday, and I want it done by Sunday. And what was happening is that it's all being left to the last 10-20% of your week or month, and all of a sudden all this labor is needed right now, to the point one person's not completing their maintenance task because helping the person with their maintenance task. And so this year we've discovered we're going to change that, and we're going to change the way that all this lays out. So we got a lot of interesting data, and a lot more visibility of basically what was happening out there. When we went for this, we felt this is what we needed to have. They wanted work orders. They wanted to see, we wanted to see what it was we were doing, and how things were going to take. Ski hills, I don't know if all ski hills are the same. Our ski hill, we have parts everywhere. We have a very big mountain. There are shipping containers, or sea cans, whatever you want to call them, all over the mountain. And I can't tell you what's in any one of them. So number 2 was we needed them. Integration, I talked about that. So this actually stemmed from another department wanting to build a management maintenance system. And they started building this wonderful web form for the drivers, because all our trucks and fleet must be inspected beginning of every day or beginning of every shift by a driver. And so, the manager of the fleets department, he saw this. He said, well, I want work orders, and I want parts, and I want this, and I want that. And I said, well, I'm putting this in for our department. Why don't we just tack you onto this? And then, so it was actually, we were going to start with fleet, because in theory, building a maintenance task for a car or a truck or a loader should be a lot easier than a ski lift. We actually started a bit late, and we actually went, we'll do lifts first. But fleet was being done at the same time. And so we wanted the integration to work with our web form, this fancy web form that we'd created. And the other IT guy and I, we built a little code snippet to go in between the two tools. And now it's great. And all the drivers, they fill out all their inspections. And if they have a problem, they just say, hey, look, my vehicle's broken. They click submit, and all of a sudden appears a work order in Limbo for our vehicle maintenance department to say, hey, there's something here that needs some attention. The number 4, the compliance enablement, like I said, that one was definitely a must. We had to have it. And you don't have to have this to be compliant, but it makes explaining to the regulator a lot easier when you have a record of everything, and it's reasonably accessible. And it had to be cost effective. Now, don't get me wrong, we looked at some of the products, and you can buy some cheap products out there. Don't get me wrong, but I think for what you ended up spending on development to make these products fit, and it's a sort of a bit of an age-old saying, is that you're taking this thing and you're trying to smash it with a sledgehammer to make it work. This, buying the right product, if you're going to pay a little bit more, you actually end up saving a little bit more money in your development time. And reality is, the amount of time I probably spent building our maintenance management plan and our PMs, it was super fast. And I looked at the ski hill product that was supposed to be great for ski hills, and the time it took me to just build a simple preventative maintenance task was horrendous. And so it was like, well, this is far better. It's generic. I can click and I can just click and drag and drop things here, and it's just going to work straight away. So it had to be cost effective. Like I said as well, I could have built a product in house using SharePoint or something else like that, or 100 Excel forms, and there might not be a monthly cost, but I would spend hours and hours and hours and hours doing it. And I still had to go out in the field and do maintenance as well, even though my sole job, well, part of my job was actually managing this, but I still had to be available to fix things and do electrical maintenance. So this was far better, and so it was these were the must-haves where that would work for us. The Limble and the other one, other systems, they've got purchase orders, and we didn't need that. We already have a purchase order system that works for us. But yeah, it is pick 80% of what you need. This one was interesting. So my lift maintenance department, a lot of these people have been around for a long time. And up until last year, you could probably say the combined experience of everyone in my department was probably well over 100 years of experience. One person that probably accounts for nearly half of that. But they've always done it this way. And, these people have passed on, their knowledge and trades and habits, good and bad, down to the staff, down to the newer staff. And it's always been this way. We've always done it this way. And I'm not kidding. The paperwork that, the forms they were filling out, these things had to be made in the 90s, if not the early 2000s. That's how long we've been doing things the way we were doing it. And it's all they've been known. And, like most of the times, like I said, they didn't really have lots of serious incidents. It just so happens that once you get to a couple of reportable ones, people start to ask questions. So after actually putting Limble in, we discovered that we were looking at these new ideas and things that, like I said, I've got a supervisor who's now looking at changing the way we do our maintenance this year. But now the staff are also starting to see it too. And, particularly when you put a device in front of them and you say, hey, look, this is how your machine's performing. And particularly if they may have done something slightly different in their maintenance, now they're starting to sort of see things like, oh, maybe I could do it this way to save a bit of time, or maybe I could do this to make this perform a little bit better. You won't change unless you see a reason to. So this was kind of an oddball sort of thing that happened. And surprisingly, the people who I thought would be the most resistant to change were actually some of the first people to embrace it. One of our millwrights, he's probably not great on technology, so one of the younger staff sort of tends to help him out with it. But he can see everything happening on the screen. He can see now what has to be done, and you can see the results of what's happening. Particularly as our industry is starting to experience a turnover at the moment, particularly in our trade side. So you've also got to have some ways to pass this information on and your maintenance history on to some of your newer staff, particularly as we employ millwrights, and millwrights they come from, you call them industrial mechanics or mechanical engineers, or these people are very, very well versed in a range of machinery. And I'm going to be hiring someone next week from the food and manufacturing industry because they have experience in conveyor equipment, and they're going to turn up and work on a different type of piece of conveyor equipment. Instead of moving food, they're moving people. So these things also now also assist your new staff coming in. And these new staff bring new maintenance ideas, and when they start to sort of see how things are performing, then all these discussions start to happen. So it was actually kind of interesting to sort of see. But this was definitely probably our biggest unexpected outcome. We had a few others as well, which we kind of expected. Visibility is a big one. we didn't know what all our staff were doing during the day. We'd position a person at a certain part of the hill, and it very literally it was, look, you're looking after this lift today. Look after yourself, and we'll call you when something breaks. Now we give them a checklist for, here's that lift, you're going to do this lift, and then while you're up there, we want you to do the other things as well. We also had an accountability of now who wasn't completing inspections, and not in some of these instances, it wasn't actually so much that they weren't doing them, they just weren't recording them. So this gave us a medium to sort of address that. That we needed to plan this. This one was kind of a given, but our implementing of our maintenance management system just really confirmed it. And like I said, we were just achieving our maintenance. We weren't making any improvements. We weren't really making our equipment any better. And when I got here, it was we should put this on here, or we should improve this door, or we should add this extra electrical feature that helps us with this. None of that was happening. We talked about it. We wanted to see all these things, but there was there was just never any time to put these things in. And so this highlighted that, we weren't spending our time very efficiently. Now, we're trying to build 2-week schedules. The next hardest part is trying to get other departments on board to sort of say, hey, look, we've got a schedule. We want you to sort of help us out and communicate with, and so, we can fit you into ours and whatnot. And those, that will be forever ongoing, as long as you have multiple departments trying to sort of, work together. And then the other one is the cost visibility. Now, whether it was an industry thing, or whether it's just our companies, I couldn't really comment on, but I couldn't tell you what we were spending on parts or maintenance, other than, there was some invoices for parts over here, but, if those parts went to this year, I couldn't tell you, what year they were bought, or, what yearly budget they fitted into, or things like that. So we started to sort of see things like, how much is this machine actually starting to cost us? Because you have breakdowns, all machines break down. So we start to have things like, well, now we have a record of the number of calls for a machine. This lift has more mechanical problems than this one. So, this one's definitely older. So maybe we now need to start looking at, what is going to cost us to replace versus, do we keep putting more parts into it, and how much are those parts starting to cost us? So, and definitely with some of the ski lifts in our industry, like they're, the older ones, it's getting hard to get parts. We're having to get parts manufactured in Austria because you just can't get them here anymore. So we're starting to sort of get that information now, and even also when you have a critical breakdown, we had one this year. It wasn't even a big part. Unfortunately, it was the critical one, but we sort of started to see now things like, well, if this happens now, what is this costing us in parts and in labor, but also, you put that together now with the loss of revenue, because now I've got a product that we can't offer and things like that. We now have more data to make better business decisions, which we just didn't have before. And like I said, things just weren't changing. It was the same thing year after year after year, which everybody believed was always working. We doubled our productivity. Yes. Can I give you any numbers? No, because we didn't write it down. Very simply. Like I said, I couldn't tell you 4 years ago, I couldn't tell you what the staff spent their time doing. I couldn't tell you how many maintenance tasks they did. I couldn't even tell you how many breakdowns they went to, because none of it was written down. So how do I know we doubled it? Well, this year was particularly interesting. We've had a very busy year for projects, and it's been a mammoth year. And now we're next week we start our preseason race training, and we are in the same position for all our work this time compared to last year, except this year we've done another mountain of things which we wouldn't have been able to do. And like I said, we're having a bit of a turnover in the industry at the moment, and I've actually also got less staff this year than we had last year. So and it definitely comes down to having a system like this, and saying we can plan a few things, and particularly as you start to put things in, like, this is how long a job should take, and you can start to visualize how your day is going to work. And definitely when I started, the first 2 or 3 hours of the day was spent standing around working out parts and doing this and doing that. And we start work here at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we weren't leaving until 9:30. At the earliest. So now, with a bit of a forecast of what the rest of my week's going to look like, and what the rest of my 2 weeks and my month is going to look like, a little more planning's now happening. This truck's going to be ready for this day to help with this job, and our parts are going to be here. And now we're having less standing around time. Like, now in the mornings, they're out the door by 7:45. So yeah, it definitely helps. And they're back at the workshop at 5 o'clock, and the trucks are cleaned off and everything's prepped for the following morning. Did I see it straight away? No, absolutely not. It was definitely something that, as you're starting a new system, you're starting a new process, it takes time to sink in. And like I said, if you've got people who've been doing things for so long, they take up for some of these buzzes a little bit slower. Definitely, as we get new staff in, the uptake on this is bigger because they don't know any different. But yeah, don't be surprised if things just take time. But no, it was definitely a really good exercise. Yeah, so that's basically where we got to. If there's questions, be more than happy to answer any.
Yeah, so thank you, Micah. There have been several questions I've rolled in. One is, are you currently using barcodes or any technology to track your parts inventory?
No, we aren't doing barcodes yet. There was actually a feature we really did like, actually. We were actually sort of hoping for the barcode system was actually, we wanted to put the barcodes, the QR codes, on the equipment, because something else that also wasn't super really available were operating manuals. So if I could put the QR code on the equipment, and then obviously we bring up the asset, and then we bring up the corresponding manual. The other part as well, and we've been looking at some barcode type equipment, and we sort of have is that not everybody wants to use their own personal device for work, and I get it. So we need to sort of find something that sort of fits between those two. But yes, that was definitely something we sort of started with, and probably for like our vehicles, our fleet inspections. To get the barcodes, the QR codes printed, do you have a problem with your vehicle? We stick that in there, scan that, and up comes the form to fill out the form for, I have a mechanical problem that I need addressed.
Great. Another one is, how long did it take you to build your maintenance plan from start to finish, including onboarding a new CMMS?
We've got it in the September. I probably spent. So we have 10 lifts. We didn't do the surface lifts. We decided that they would wait. So all our aerial lifts, I probably spent a month and a half to 2 months, probably doing the maintenance tasks for the aerial lifts. So 7 machines, and that would be the pre-operational inspection and the operational inspection. So in the morning, they will go and spend probably about 15 to 20 minutes doing an inspection, and then they have to come back during the day around lunchtime and do temperature checks and things like that. So the first part was 1.5 months. Onboarding, like I said, was a 3-hour session, but then probably following up from that, probably say give yourself a week. The annual inspections, that took us a bit longer. We started working on that in the winter, and admittedly, that one didn't have great take up in my first year. Part of it was because I went on vacation, and unfortunately, when you have a person who's championing a project or running a project, and they disappear for 2 weeks, everything comes to a halt. So I had to restart that when I got back. So that one took us a little bit longer. So all up now, like, we're in a real good position now. I would say it's taken us the better part of the 3 years to do it. And it's not by any means like 100% finished. I don't, like I said, it will never be 100% finished. Just because, you're constantly trying to improve things, your equipment changes, or the code around even what you should be doing with your equipment might change. But yeah, I budgeted on 5 years to put ourselves in a really, really, really good position is what I sort of budgeted on. The parts and inventory still needs a lot of work. Like I said, we're finding stuff everywhere. Stuff that people decide to bury underneath a pile of snow for the winter because they said we'll come back to that. That one's still a long way away. But yeah, three years for us to get to this point where it's reliable, it's useful, we can budget on it.
Great. And did you have various maintenance teams internally that you needed to implement the plan with? And if so, how did you determine which team to prioritize in terms of building it out?
Yeah, so like I said, fleet was meant to come first because it was meant to be easy. But we were a bit slow on the take up of actually saying, yep, we're going to go with a product, we're going to do this. And it was actually lifts that wanted it first. So the mechanical and electrical team, they went first. They were the ones that, we said, yep, we need to start with you. We started with them first. And Fleet kind of already had a system that was kind of working. They had just a bunch of PDF documents that they would just tick through. So it wasn't like they didn't have a record. It's like, well, we can probably put that off for 6 to 8 months and we'll come back to their rollout a little bit later. But actually what happened with that was actually because we started with lift maintenance and we started to see the mistakes and things that we'd made, when we built assets or when we built our preventative maintenance plans for that department. At the same time, we're still realizing what not to do with those other ones. So it was kind of a really good learning environment in that instance. And yeah, the idea was it's the people on the ground. They were the ones that we sort of had to collaborate with a lot, because the last thing we needed was to go through and spend all this time and effort and then have it not get taken up by the field teams.
Got it. And so let's see, we have someone asking, how is work order prioritization and distribution of your work orders to staff being managed?
So we tried a couple of ways with this. And again, like I said, this is why it's taken us this far. So we tried, we tried automating it. So we tried for example, we know that the dailies were going to go every day. So we said, here you go, lift maintenance. Here are all the lifts that need to be inspected today, and work it out amongst yourselves about which lift you are taking. And that kind of worked, but we still were seeing the inefficiencies of, this person's going here, this person's going here. So, we got a new supervisor in this time, and he said, well, no, we're not going to do it that way. Now I'm going to tell you which section. So now, in conjunction, now we now say this is still what the whole team is doing, but I'm going to assign you this one. And we have a maintenance coordinator, and who now, like, when I left that job, and I'm now the manager, and now her job is going to be to manage some of this work. Some of the other stuff is automated, like, if someone requests says, hey, look, this particular skeleton is broken, they fill out the form, and that just goes straight to the whole team. And they get a notification, right, we're going to go fix that machine now, that's priority. And everything else will sort of be managed by the supervisor. We are using teams, like, we have an electrical team and a mechanical team. The electrical team has access to a couple of different locations within Limble, because they do snowmaking maintenance and, on some of the snowmaking equipment, and they do other electrical maintenance. But they fall under the lift maintenance team, so their lift maintenance manager sort of has oversight of all of that. But yeah, still very much allocated by a person so far. Yeah, we've sort of moved away from automatic issuing of tasks. And that very much depends, I think, on your workforce and the type of team you've got. If you've got a very autonomous team and they're used to, they're very reliable at being and self-managing, then that's okay. We discovered that ours is not, quite simply. So,
Got it. And I think this is one we'll go to. Are you using the reporting features of Limble, and what type of reports have you developed so far?
So we're doing a lot of the trending and particularly around, like I said, we've got a part that wears out. We use that kind of stuff a lot. Financial reporting, we are still putting things in because, we're still trying to go back and find, how much did this part cost. The financial part we're still working on. But definitely as far as frequency of breakdown, frequency of part replacement, how often this particular task turns up, we're using those a lot. Because it made it very hard before to justify why we need to replace a part, or why we need to replace a piece of equipment, or something like that. This is just getting a lot easier. So for us, ours would probably be maintenance reliability. That little MTBR box, the mean time between failure, which is like MTBF box, that's a number I use a lot of. I can tell very quickly between, of a piece of equipment, how many sort of, I think it's mean time between failure, how frequently I'm likely to get a breakdown on a piece of equipment.
Got it. Appreciate it. So I think, we will kind of end there, and any questions that we weren't able to respond to, we'll definitely respond to after the webinar. In case you are interested in learning more about, how Limble can help empower and, really help enable your maintenance team, you can speak with a product expert. Just go to limblecmms.com. And also, if everyone has a moment, we would love to get your thoughts on this webinar. There's a little icon at the bottom of your webinar menu. If you could just spend 2 minutes to, take a survey and give us some feedback on what you thought of this webinar, we'd really appreciate it. Also, everyone will receive a copy of this presentation via an email after the webinar. And we really appreciate your time, Micah, and appreciate everyone for joining today. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks.